Imagine an unusual morning. The sunlight feels dimmed, a thin silvery veil over the sky. The pavement no longer scorching. There's no miracle at work, just a thought that's both frightening and enticing. If climate had a switch, who would get to flip it? A small question with outsized consequences. As heat records keep tumbling and rainy seasons stop keeping their promises, we start looking upward. Could we bend the weather ourselves? If there's a turnoff ahead, is it an exit or a dead end? Step back and you'll see why that idea surfaced. A century of progress left the air heavy with CO2. Charts that once felt abstract now knock on the doors of cities and fields alike. Cutting emissions isn't a slogan, it's non-negotiable. But how fast can we cut when the economic engine hasn't fully turned? Time is unforgiving. And while we're swapping out the pillars, the wires are still running hot. That's where a temporary plan appears. If we can't clear the smoke fast enough, can we turn down the flame for now? Don't get it twisted. This isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card. Everything has a price. Proposals to intervene in the climate arrive both bold and tentative. One branch aims at sunlight itself, manage incoming radiation so more of it bounces back to space. Think of it as mimicking those rare years when Earth cools slightly after a major volcanic eruption. Spray microscopic particles into the stratosphere, where winds can carry them far and keep them aloft. Or brighten marine clouds so the ocean becomes a bigger mirror. It's fast, the effect is visible, and the price tag seems lower than rewiring the entire economy. Very persuasive on paper. But just as the mind nods along, instincts flare. Cooling isn't curing. The underlying problem, accumulated CO2, remains. Shade can lower heat, but it won't calm ocean acidification or return lost ice. Don't let the umbrella fool you about the storm. The other branch takes the straight road, pulls CO2 out of the air. Tall towers act like artificial lungs. Sorbent materials pick CO2 the way a magnet picks iron. The gas is compressed and sent deep underground to sleep for generations. A geologic path speeds up rock weathering. Crushed basalt binds carbon into solid minerals. Nature gets a vote too. Regrowing forests, restoring wetlands, reviving seagrass meadows. It's slower, costlier, less dramatic, but it goes after the root. The rub is scale. Humanity emits in the billions of tons every year. Even a plant that captures tens of thousands of tons barely dents the ledger. A hard question appears: slow and steady, or fast and risky? The only honest answer is usually this: clean the house and turn off the stove at the same time. Looking under the hood means navigating a maze. With stratospheric aerosols, the radiative balance shifts first, then temperature differences between layers of air, then wind patterns, then rain. A small tweak aloft could slide an entire growing season out of place. Cooler by a degree, but a harvest gone missing. Are we willing to pay that price on someone else's behalf? And if emergency turns into years of deployment, societies will adjust to a new baseline. Should the program halt politics, money, or mishap, the heat that's been held down can spring back like a coil. That snap fast, sharp, unforgiving is what climate scientists fear most. Would you play a game where the opening move looks solid, but the end game is a blur? The CO2 removal path is less theatrical, but no less demanding. It needs truly clean energy to run. Supply chains for specialized materials, land and water used responsibly, and rigorous monitoring to prove the carbon stays put. If CO2 goes underground, we need periodic proof. It's still there. Even tree planting takes discipline. A real forest isn't rows of identical poles. It's diverse species, ecology that fits the place, plans for fire and pests, and room for local livelihoods. A forest is a living community, not a wall of wood. The best thing about CDR is that it teaches patience. Root cause solutions are never cheap or instant, but they last. Outside the lab, the debate meets real people. What happens to a delta that depends on reliable monsoons if rainfall shifts because of a project half a world away? How does a coastal city adapt if storms change their usual tracks? The answers don't live in a footnote. They show up as empty grain heads, reservoirs that run dry too soon, fishing seasons that fail. The most vulnerable are often first to bear the risk and last to be heard. Here's a painful paradox. The sky has no borders, but liability does. That's why any planet-scale intervention needs international governance, independent oversight, and clear mechanisms for redress. Without that, promises are just polite words. Meanwhile, the quiet foundations keep going in. Wind and solar, storage, smarter grids, electrified transport, better building envelopes, new industrial processes. What was too expensive yesterday now rides down the learning curve. Every clean megawatt hour on the grid reduces tomorrow's temptation to reach for a giant sunshade. Every electric bus line, every mile of urban rail, every well-insulated roof nudges us away from high-risk shortcuts. Not every win is loud. Most are the silent victories of emissions that never happen. Still, harsh scenarios are real. Ice at both poles is retreating. Major ocean currents wobble. Multi-continent heat waves stretch on. Fire seasons swallow skies. In moments like these, a panic brake to shave heat quickly might step off the page. To use it or not becomes an ethical choice. Save lives now with long-term risk, or avoid risk and accept near-term loss. There are no sterile choices. The better question is this: if we ever have to consider it, are we willing to place the decision in a transparent multinational process? Big choices deserve many eyes. So, how not to get lost? First, emissions cuts are the center line. There is no shortcut. Everything else only makes sense if it circles this line. Second, CO2 removal is a necessary add-on, rolled out where the conditions fit. Clean power, safe geology, tough measurement and verification. Clear long-term responsibility. Third, research on artificial cooling must be transparent, with open data, independent review, and genuine participation from communities who will feel the effects. No large outdoor deployment without international governance in place. And finally, adaptation isn't surrender, it's intelligence. Cooler cities through shade and reflective materials, early warning systems, climate risk insurance, and livelihood transitions. Survival is a skill, not a stroke of luck. If you want a line to remember, don't call the fire department while the stove is still on. Turn off the stove that's cutting emissions. Then check the extinguisher, do the serious research, and build the guardrails in case a true emergency brake is ever needed. And don't sweep trash under the rug and call it a clean house. Don't use CDR as a license to keep burning fuel. That order sounds simple, but it's the thin line between courage and carelessness. We end where we began, with that unusual morning. If someday the sky truly changes hue because of a human decision, may that choice come from understanding, not panic, from broad consent, not a solo performance, not to hide our mistakes, but to buy time for the hardest work of all, changing how we produce, move, consume, and reward each other. Maybe we'll keep a lifeboat in the emergency locker, but the best outcome is never having to break the glass. Saving a planet doesn't need a flashy miracle. It needs discipline, fairness, and endurance, the quiet things that don't make thunder, but do make sunrise.
Every question hides a reason. Every answer reveals a story. If this one made you see the world a little differently, give it a like. And if you want to keep uncovering the hidden why behind our world, hit subscribe and stay curious.